I certainly don't have it all figured out when it comes to leadership. Everything I do with them, I get to participate in, and it helps me grow and develop as a leader as well.
Yeah.
Um, One
Yeah.
of the things that I established early on is a weekly leadership meeting. I think part of it is all about leadership development. Really, by having that consistency of meeting every week, it gives us an opportunity to share all of this leadership experience and what we're all learning individually as a team to drive us hopefully forward and challenge each other to be a little better.
Welcome to Leadership in Manufacturing Podcast, your go-to resource for mastering leadership excellence in the dynamic world of electronics. I'm your host, Sanna Winding, and I'm so excited you're here. I'm here to bring you insightful interviews with industry leaders from distribution, the manufacturing sector, and also manufacturing reps. Before we start, I have a small request. If you're enjoying our podcast on platforms like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please hit the follow button. Your support is going to help us to bring in even more amazing guests to share the valuable knowledge. So thank you for listening in. If you want to learn more, check out our website. It's called leadershipinmanufacturing.com. Welcome to Leadership in Manufacturing Podcast. I'm your host, Sanna Winding, and here you will find valuable knowledge, practical tips, and inspiration tailored to elevate your leadership in the manufacturing sector. I have a little favor. If you can hit that subscribe button, maybe you're listening to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or maybe you're watching on our YouTube channel. So it's going to help us. So thank you so much. Back to the show. So I want to introduce today's guest, and that is Damien Croft. Damien is the general manager at NorCom, where he's responsible for overseeing the growth and development of individual and teams to ensure profitable and sustainable P&L growth. His leadership focuses on building high-performance teams and fostering a culture of excellence, accountability, and creativity. Throughout his career, Damien has delivered results by emphasizing trust and collaboration within his team. So welcome, Damien. I can't wait to hear your insight on the next generation of leaders. So welcome to the show.
Excellent. Thank you, Sana, for having me. Excited to get into the discussion and hopefully add value to some of your listeners out there.
Oh, I'm sure you will. We already had a pre-talk, so I know you will. That's why you're back here. So I always love to find out, the passion of what excites you about the electronics industry. So what's your story?
Good question. I, like most of your guests, I didn't grow up thinking, when I'm older, I want to sell connectors. That wasn't on the radar. You want to be a pilot or do whatever it was. So I almost fell into the industry by accident, if you like.
Yeah.
And I must admit, early on in the industry, you're dealing with components. I didn't know one end of a connector from another. And so I'm trying to figure out what does this connector do? Why are there so many different types? Why can't one connector do everything? And I remember as I started to go out and visit with customers, I started on the sales side of the business.
Yeah.
I started to see where our product was being used and the sort of technology that we're enabling. We have customers that are literally saving babies' lives with ventilators, and we've got customers building drones and robotics and all of this high technology, cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's where the passion started, was seeing all of the technology that we're able to enable as a component supplier within that supply chain. And then I think the other side of the equation for me, it comes down to the people. In fact, I think I've heard on your podcast talk about, for an industry that generates so much revenue, it's quite a small group of people actually putting the work in to drive that. And I think we're fortunate in our industry to be able to work with some amazing people who are willing to help and support, bounce ideas around. So really, for me, the passion comes through the people we're able to interact with and grow together with.
Awesome. Yeah, it is about the people, and it's a good group of people. So I like that you said you started one place, right? So that helps as well of how to develop, I believe, how to become a better leader. So how do you use the skills or the experience you had? How do you use that now?
Well, I'm a big believer that it doesn't matter what position you are in an organization or even in your personal life, you need leadership, right? You need personal leadership, how you manage yourself and go about your business. I certainly need a lot of leadership raising my family and trying to keep up with the kids and help guide them. And that obviously applies in the business world as well. So a lot of the skills that I used in my sales and marketing roles early on in my career translate to now being in formal leadership positions. You know, simple things about communication,
Yeah,
empathy, building trust, building relationships, being transparent with people are all transferable skills that really doesn't matter what position you're in. They're going to apply and help you
yeah.
in that regard.
Yeah. Oh, totally agree here. So it's so easy to say, I think, right? It's like, oh, this is all the skills that you need. So how do you support your team or how do you make them to grow so they are even better in their positions?
Yeah, well, I think it starts with me. Is I certainly don't have it all figured out when it comes to leadership.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a little self-serving. Is everything I do with them, I get to participate in, and it helps me grow and develop as a leader as well.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the things that I did when I took over the position as general manager, uh, I had the opportunity early on to promote two younger employees into their first positions in leadership. On the other end of the spectrum, I've got leaders that are reporting directly into me that are on the back end of their career, got all sorts of experience and leadership that they can share. So my challenge was how do I bring this all together? How are we able to share our shared experience and leadership qualities to help the younger ones develop, and also push some of the more experienced people in the team to continue to grow and develop on their side of things. So one
Yeah.
of the things that I established early on is a weekly leadership meeting. And each week I get my direct reports, and we meet together, and we have a meeting. Within that meeting, part of it is all about leadership development. So we might have a book that we're going through, and we're studying various chapters or sections of that, and then discussing and talking about how it can apply to specific challenges or issues that we're having here. Someone might find a really good article that they bring along, and they'll share that. And again, we kind of dive in as a group and collaborate on how we can utilize that
Yeah.
as well. So really, by having that consistency of meeting every week, it gives us an opportunity to share all of this leadership experience and what we're all learning individually as a team to drive us hopefully forward and challenge each other to be a little better.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's like having your own book club, right? Within your company.
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
certainly not just limited to books,
No.
but yeah, there's all sorts of good stuff. There might be a
Yeah.
video one week, an article, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's that sort of
Yeah.
philosophy of shared learning, shared experience.
Yeah. And having that dynamic, right? So it's not just a one way, it's actually a two-way communication that you have in that group.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
it helps. One of the side products of doing this is, you know, building a culture of openness with the team.
Yeah.
Is because it's a space that we try and leave very judgment free. People can be vulnerable about, hey, we've been studying about this portion of leadership.
Yeah.
And actually, when I think about it, I really suck at this, and I want to do better. So help me out here. What advice have you got?
Yeah.
And the team, I've noticed, the more we've done it, have become more open in their communication. And then obviously when they go back to their teams, that open communication goes down to everyone else in the organization. So
Yeah.
there's definitely been some nice byproducts that I wasn't necessarily planning on that are helping us as a business.
Yeah, I really like that. I remember earlier on in my career that it's easy to reflect, right? But somebody busted into my office, right? And then they were like, "Oh, this is happening," and you just like, what's going on? And instead of just taking it and saying, "Let me just listen," and then let me get back to you, right? I was firing back at that moment as well, right? Saying, "That's
Yeah,
just on words, of course," but and and later, or maybe when I got home, I was like, "Oh my god, I should just have said, 'Let me listen and let me get back to you,'" right? To get it further
yeah.
down. So I have developed my leadership skills, but I wanted to hear if you had some of that experience. Well, how do you prepare a new leader or even a seasonal leader, right? Not to just jump out of their seat and then saying, let me fight with words.
Yeah, there's a part of that, as you know, that all of us have to go through that at one point or another to learn the lesson
Yeah.
for ourselves. So I'm not sure we can teach or coach people on that one.
No.
We can certainly give some guidance. for sure as far as how to deal with things. One of the things that I found helpful, because my leadership team are studying and developing themselves using the same materials that I am, we start to create a shared language
Yeah,
as far as talking about leadership and culture and things like that. So when it comes to, a scenario where perhaps one of the leaders have reacted rather than taking a minute to take a breath, listen and understand, and then
yeah,
proactively give a response,
yeah,
it gives me a shared language that I'm able to communicate with them on, that they understand. And I can refer back to, hey, remember when we studied this habit in such and such a book? And seek first to understand, then be
yeah,
understood, and then we can talk about that principle. So I think by having that shared language, it makes it a lot easier when it comes to coaching
mm,
leaders, and also I encourage my team to coach me as well. So
yeah,
if they see me and they think, you know what, Damien, you
yeah. You
didn't
do the
behave like what we spoke about last week, it gives them a shared language to hold me accountable as well.
Oh, that's nice. I nice. And just listening to what you're telling here as well, I think because you are meeting right as a group, you're already a bonding and having this language. So having this the door that opens up and a surprise, right? Somebody is saying, "Hey, what's going on?" That's not happening because you already are having a conversation, or it's just easier to say, "Hey, I'm observing this, right? Can we chat about it? What's going on?"
Yeah, absolutely. I think building on that as well, when I started this process, I was very transparent with what we were doing. And I,
Yeah,
I let them know that this may be uncomfortable, but the objective here is to help you grow,
yeah.
to help you grow as a producer within NorComp, and then also as a leader, and develop skills that are going to help you through your lives. And I think once people know that you're there to help them, and they can see that you're genuine about that, they all of a sudden become very open
Yeah,
to receiving feedback and wanting to learn and develop. And
yeah,
some people buy into that quicker than others. Other
of
people, it
course.
takes a little bit
Yeah,
of time, and they kind of test you out to see if you're legitimate about it. But I think as long as your values are consistent and you're doing
yeah.
it for the right reasons, that shines through, and people are open and actually welcome it. I now have some members of the team that will come looking for feedback after they've been in certain
Oh,
situations,
nice.
rather than
Yeah,
me having to reach out and
yeah,
kind of push them in that direction.
yeah. Or say, "I heard this happened," right? They
Yes.
come to you instead. Oh, we all been there. Come on.
It's always easier to have difficult conversations when they start it rather than
Yeah,
you having to reach
yeah,
out.
yeah. It is. It is. Or just to say, how do you open that conversation? Yeah, it's easier when they come. What about homework? Because I think when we had our pre-call, right, you said, "Oh, you assigned homework." So what kind of homework? Can you share
Yeah. So
deeper on that part?
I must admit, I didn't come up with the word homework. We did a few of these weekly sessions, and I was asking the team to do certain things, and they would joke about, "Oh, the principal's handing out homework again," and that kind of stuck. So
Yeah,
we do have homework. So yeah, it's real simple. It's about, if we're on a certain book, for example. I will let them know that, hey, this week we're going to look at chapter 1 and 2. So go away, study it, read it,
yeah,
and come up with your own ideas, and we'll have that as the basis of our discussion. So sometimes the homework is just going away and learning whatever material it may be that we're going to be looking into. And then the other side of it is, knowledge is wonderful, it's great, but if you
yeah,
don't do anything with it, it's not going to help you. And so the other side of the homework is, if we've discussed a principle, I'll challenge the team. We spoke about earlier, seek first to understand, then be understood.
yeah,
It's like, okay, I want you to go away this week, find a scenario where you can implement this, and then next week report back on kind of how it happened, how you dealt with applying that. Was it easy? Was it difficult?
yeah.
And how was the outcome? Did it have a positive impact? And then we, through that shared experience, kind of help each other to refine it. So I'm very big on action. We
Yeah.
use the word intentional a lot around at NorComp, and so part of the homework is challenging them to implement some of the learning that we're doing as part of these leadership sessions.
And you get feedback within a week? I think that's really fast. Implement and then
Well,
Takes time.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but I
Yeah.
wanted that cadence of accountability
Yeah.
with what we're doing, and so a week is long enough for them to implement some things. And obviously, if we go off track, which does happen, we're running a business here,
Yeah.
and stuff happens, and we have to react and respond.
Yeah.
We're only off track for a short amount of time because a week later we're talking to each other and being accountable to each other again, and we're able to get back on track
That's
quickly,
good. Yeah. So you're not like suddenly you're like spinning out, right? You're actually coming back to where you were.
which is very easy to do. Just look
Oh
back a few
yeah.
years to COVID and supply chain challenges and everything else. It's very easy to get distracted.
It is. It is. Hey, we're all human, right? So it takes
Yes.
time. So we're in the same spot here. So how do you promote like a culture where you are with working smarter within your team? How do you promote that?
Well, as soon as you say that, I zoom in on the word culture.
Yeah.
I'm pretty obsessed with culture. I think it's one of the most vital ingredients of success in any group of people, whether it's a family culture or work culture, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm a pretty simple guy. When I look at culture, I think about as a group, as a collective, how do we think, how do we act, and how do we interact with each other, with customers, with partners, whoever it may be.
Yeah.
And I guess within that context, and also tying in the leadership side of things, as I said earlier, I want everyone in NorCom to be a leader. Whether you're on the production line or whether you're the general manager or director of sales,
Yeah.
leadership is required for us to be successful. Um, I can't spend one-on-one time with everyone in the organization to develop that leadership. And so how do we do that? We do that through culture. And we talk about culture. Part of our leadership meeting is we'll review one of our 6 pillars of our culture each week as a leadership team. We also have a monthly meeting with the whole team, and anybody within the business, as I said, whether you're a production worker, an inside sales, anybody could be asked to present a slide or two
Yeah.
on one element of our culture, and so we engage them there. But when we want to develop a certain behavior within our team, we do it through our culture. And setting the example as a leadership team, talking about it regularly. Another element of that as well, which I've found really helpful, is catching people doing something right. I
Yeah.
think in leaders, and particularly as a parent for me, when your kids or an employee gets something wrong, it's very easy to jump down
Yeah.
the rabbit hole of why did this happen? This is straightforward. If you only you did this and this and this, it
Yeah.
all would have worked out. And obviously, you need to be able to give that feedback to your team and
Sure.
help learn from that. Unfortunately, we sometimes forget the other side of things.
Yeah.
Is more often than not, the team are executing at a very high level day in, day out.
Yeah.
So we have a phrase here at NorComp of catching people doing things right and make sure you call that out, whether it's in an email, whether it's face
I
to
love
face,
that.
whether it's
Yeah.
part of one of our
Yeah.
meetings. Recognize the good work people are doing.
Yeah.
If we talk about culture, for example, and maybe we're talking about a passion for excellence, and I see somebody go above and beyond for one of our customers,
Yeah.
I make sure that I follow up and call them out and say, when we talk about passion for excellence, this is exactly the type of behavior we're wanting to get. So
Yeah.
thank you for setting that example. And everyone loves a little bit of praise and
Yeah.
encouragement, right?
Yeah, nothing is better, right? When you get recognized, it's like you're like, oh, that they saw it, right? Somebody is appreciating it. And that gives you, I always talk about when somebody says something positive about me, it's like giving me a vitamin pill. I'm like, oh, I want to do more, right? But if you point at the 2% or 10% that went wrong in a project or something else, or it got delayed, and you're like going that, you're just like, right? Of course, you need to do problem solving, critical thinking, and fix it, and continuous improvement, but you need to level it out.
Yeah, it's so backwards that we spend so much energy and effort on the 5 or 10% that went wrong,
Yeah.
while spending no time on the 95%
Yeah.
that worked great or where we overachieved. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, we try and readdress that balance a little bit.
That's good. And I think just being aware of it, as you're just telling, right, or sharing here, that's the first step that is just going to set you in much better position as a company. So I think kudos to you. Um, I'm
Like
going
like I said,
like
it's not
that.
me. A lot of these ideas have come from the team. We'll read something and they're like, "Hey, I really like this. Maybe we should
Yeah.
implement it." And it's very much a team effort for sure.
Yeah. What about the whole technology and everything is evolving and after the pandemic, right? We had to be remote and now hybrid, or maybe we're in office, right? It's all a mix, but you have to navigate so many different software and you have integrations. What happened at your place?
Yeah, we were fairly fortunate that we have a number of medical device customers. And so, you look at COVID and then the acceleration in technology and digital tools
Yeah.
that happened as a result of COVID. We were in the office pretty much throughout that. For me personally, I'm not very good at working remote. So after about a week of trying it, I called the then general manager and said, I can't do this. I need to get back to the office. So I'm
Yeah.
going in.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, I think from my side of things, I'm fortunate that I've got some people smarter than me that are able to navigate all the different tools and suggest different things that can help us.
Yeah.
We used to be petrified of Teams calls, and now it's normal,
Yeah, right.
and we're okay with that. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of different tools
You
that we
adapted.
utilize.
Yeah.
Obviously, with AI over the last 12 months or so,
Yeah.
lots of talk around that. And as I said, we've got a gentleman on staff here who's very good with software and practicing with them, trying different things out. And he'll get excited if a task that would have normally taken him 3 hours, he can now do in 15 minutes using an AI tool.
Yeah.
So he'll share that with the group. So again, just trial, error, experimenting. There's been a lot of tools we've tried.
Yeah.
And after a few months, we're like, hey, this isn't offering the value that we want. And we move on and try something else. So
Yeah.
I'm a big believer here. If we want to encourage creativity, we want to encourage growth, we have to make a few mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for us to go and try 4 or 5 things, knowing that only one of them might be successful. But if
Yeah.
that one thing helps us to take a step forward, the failures in the other 3 or 4 things is okay. I'm willing to accept that. So
Yeah.
yeah, trial and error and figuring out what works for us and our needs.
No, it's good, right? It's like when you're cooking, right? Not every time it tastes amazing. You have to practice a few times. That's just personal for me.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on my wife's cooking here. That could get me in trouble.
Yeah, be careful, be careful. So looking a little bit ahead here, right? Things of what skill set do you think like a future leader in this industry? What should that be?
Yeah, great question. Actually, just this morning, I'm big at trying to keep up with technology, with leadership, and I listen to a lot of different things driving in to the workplace. And I'm currently listening to an audiobook that I listen to driving in.
Yeah,
The lady on there was talking about how if you go back to the early 1900s, leadership was all about whoever's the most dominant, strongest personality in the room would overpower, and they would be the go-to leader. You then move into the information age, and whoever had access to the most information was able to best utilize that information, kind of move to the top of the food chain, if you like, and they were the ones getting the leadership management positions. And she spoke about how now that transition with AI coming on board and helping manipulate a lot of that data and accelerate that, it's moving into the people era,
yeah,
and the ability to be able to engage with people, to be able to maximize the effectiveness of individuals, of teams, being able to build the relationships with your partners, distributors, and customers. That's going to be the predominant skill set for leaders as we move into this next phase or generation of leadership, if you like. And
yeah,
so for me, I focus a lot on that side of things of being empathetic. We run a business here. We have challenges. We have frustrations. We have to have difficult conversations, and it's encouraging people to be able to remember at the end of the day, we're all people in this environment trying our best. I don't think any of us are going out to, screw someone over or to make things difficult for other people. We're all here trying our best,
Yeah.
and so let's work together. Part of our culture is blameless problem solving. So if there's an issue, we take the people out of the equation. We present the problem, put it on the table, and we look at it, all aspects of it. We
Yeah.
look at the process. Has that played a role here? We look at the systems involved. Is that playing a role here? We look at the people. Is that playing a role here? We look at training. Is that playing a role? So
Yeah.
it's kind of looking at the whole picture,
Nice.
dealing with issues and kind of eliminating the finger pointing and the
Yeah.
politics out of it. It's like, hey, we have a problem. Let's look at it. Let's put our minds together and let's fix it and move on. So trying to create an atmosphere of open communication, developing empathy, helping people just with their general communication skills, how to present information to people, how to have those difficult discussions.
Yeah.
And part of our weekly leadership meetings is we have some of those difficult discussions. So
Yeah.
they have something that they can use as a template, if you like, when they have to have discussions with their team.
Yeah.
Sometimes the homework might be, go and discuss this with your team and ask them on where they can do better in this area. And a lot of the newer managers are, ooh, don't know about that. But they have seen us do it within that meeting and then can replicate that with their teams.
I like that. So I had a question here to say, how do you learn? But that's what we've been chatting about already. So I won't ask you that. But I want to ask you, what is the last skill that you acquired?
Last skill, well, it's probably like most others out there at the minute, is trying to get my head around AI
Yeah.
and how to utilize AI where it can be helpful, where it still needs some development. And so I have a little whiteboard up by my desk here, and I have AI written on there as a constant reminder to anytime I'm doing a task or looking for some inspiration to
Yeah.
try and utilize some of the AI tools that we have to, idea generation or to drive efficiency. And try and be more efficient is, as you've already heard here, I like to focus on developing the team and spending time and effort there.
Yeah.
And obviously, the more tasks that I can and automate, and the more
Yeah.
efficient I can be with some of the administrative tasks that all GMs have to deal with, it frees me up to spend more time on looking at strategy, the direction we're going in, working with the teams on product development, and as well as the development of the team here as well. So yeah, I think the latest one is probably a very practical skill around AI. From a leadership viewpoint, I found the more I learn about leadership, the more I realize I need to learn, and the more I realize I need to do better. And so that's just a rabbit hole that you just keep going down. And a lot of the time you circle back around and you're reminded of things that you learned about years ago. So for me, it's just a continuous upward spiral of learning when it comes to the leadership, management, developing your strategic knowledge and know-how. It's kind of ingrained in me now, to the point that if I'm traveling and I don't get to do it as much, you almost crave getting back to it. I need to read a book or listen to a
Yeah.
podcast or do something.
Something. No, I really like it because it's I'm looking at it. You will never hit a plateau and then saying, "Oh, done, right? I'm the perfect leader now. I don't need
Yeah,
anything else."
I
Because
I can
you need
tell
to
you.
evolve with, yeah, and you need to evolve because the world is changing. We're all changing, right? The industry
Yeah.
is changing. The dynamic. There's so much going on, so you need to have that. So I love that you're saying, it's like the continuous learning.
Yeah, the penny really dropped for me when I started in the industry. I had somebody who worked for another company, but they were one of our partners, and he really helped me. He was like a mentor to me when I was still figuring out one end of a connector from the other. Um, as things transpired, my career developed. He left that company, and I ended up hiring this guy, and he reported into me.
Ah,
And as a leader, it's like, how do I help the guy that taught me a lot of what I know about this industry and
yeah,
helped me and mentored me, and talk about the imposter syndrome? I'm like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. What can I teach this guy?
yeah,
I remember a few years later he got another opportunity and moved on, and he came into my office, and he just spoke to me and thanked me for the opportunity and spoke about how much he had learned and developed during his time working with me.
Yeah.
And it kind of hit me twofold. It helped me realize that I do have something to offer as a leader,
Yeah.
and I am having an impact, because I think early on in your leadership career, you kind of wonder what sort of an impact you're having.
Yeah.
But then also on the other end of the spectrum, I've got a really experienced guy who's still learning and pushing himself to be better.
Yeah.
And so I think you're spot on. Is it doesn't matter where you are in your career. There's opportunities to push yourself. There's opportunities for growth and
Yeah.
to continue to develop. So I love that with my team now. As I said, I've got guys in their 20s on my team. I've got guys and girls at the other end of their career as well on the team. And
Yeah.
seeing all of them working together and learning from each other is selfishly very rewarding.
Oh, I love it. So that now that you're saying with the whole generation, right? You have young and older. So what's right now? How do you get everybody on the same page? Because we
Ooh,
have different backgrounds, right? We have and the whole generation, right? How we work. We have different
yeah,
ways of
great
attacking
question.
it. Yeah. So what's your secret?
I don't know if I've uncovered the secret sauce to that yet. I will share. I read an article. It was maybe 2 years ago, and it spoke about the geriatric millennial, and it gave you a period of like 5 years, and I fall within that 5 year period.
Yeah.
So we are millennials, but we're the old folks of the millennials, if you like.
Yeah.
And it spoke about between this time period, you had the advantage of seeing the analog world, knowing what it was like to do business from a relationship viewpoint, knowing how to develop relationships.
Yeah.
But then you were also young enough that you embraced the technology as we moved into the digital age.
Yeah.
And the article kind of spoke about the advantage you have as a leader by understanding both sides of that coin.
Yeah.
So I don't know if just by pure luck of when I was born that plays a role in that. Um, but no, I think doing what we're doing as far as getting people together,
Yeah.
we have some of the young guns at NorComp challenging some of the more experienced folks here on how they do things,
Yeah.
and the other way around, and sharing that experience and having that openness that people feel safe to share knowledge and experience with each other. I think that develops a mutual respect between the generations, and then allows people to see that, hey, everyone around the table here has got something to offer. It might be a different viewpoint than what I have. It might be a different way of doing things to how I've always done it, but maybe they're onto something. Maybe there's something I
Yeah.
can learn here. So, yeah, I don't think we've cracked the code, but I think the more we interact, the more we challenge each other, the more we try and push ourselves forward as a business and solving some of the problems that we face. I think a natural byproduct of that is you get that intergenerational
Yeah.
buy-in and view and commitment, which only makes us stronger.
Yeah, yeah. It's bringing everybody to the same level, right? No
Mhm.
matter your title, no matter your age. And then
Yeah,
I think the code there is the culture. That's what you. That's how I
yeah,
understand it. That's how you. That's your secret sauce that
yeah,
nobody can
and that's
copy,
why
right?
I
'Cause that's
yeah,
that's
that's
your
why I
secret
said
sauce.
earlier, I encourage the team to call me out. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not immune from this. I don't get to sit in my throne and bark out the orders and you do this, but I don't need to worry about it. So
uh,
I strongly encourage the team to call me out, and
yeah,
they they do it, and
yeah,
it doesn't always feel great, but it helps push me to be
yeah.
better and develop myself as well. So yeah, it's very much we're all in this together. There isn't any us and them, or at least we try not to have any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also just because you, if saying, oh, this is the way you wanted to execute it or create, come from A to B. There's other ways, right, of going. And I think as a leader, you also have to sit back and just saying, let the team figure it out. Because maybe they come up with a much better way to get from A to B.
I've got a lot of people here smarter than me, and the best thing I've learned to do is give them some guidance and direction, and then get the heck out the way.
Yeah. That's good. That's how to grow your team and and the company. Oh, we
Yep.
could continue here. I love you having on this podcast episode. So let's last question. I'm like already. If we're looking back, right? If they maybe you have to look back like maybe 10 or 15 years and give yourself an advice, what will that be?
Advice looking back, we could probably do a whole podcast on this
Okay, we'll do
because
that after. Oh.
I've made lots of mistakes and errors of judgment along the way, and
Yeah.
obviously all of that's part of your learning and development. Advice, I think you hear a lot from people. It talks about learning as much as you can, soaking it all up. I agree with that. I buy into that. I think what really helped me was when I was able to translate the learning that I was getting and the knowledge to practical application. And how do I maximize the value that I add, whether it's to my customer, whether it's to the organization that I'm working for as a whole, whether it's to our distribution partner, our manufacturer's rep, whoever it may be.
Yeah.
How do I translate that knowledge and maximize value? I think early on, I was so petrified of making a mistake and so focused on, I'm in sales, I've got to grow my number,
Yeah.
that I was gathering information when I'm out in the field, and I perhaps wasn't sharing that information with the product development team or with the supply chain team or with the marketing team. And they're areas where I could have massively maximized my value that I was offering to the company.
Yeah.
But I was so blinkered on trying to do what I needed to do in my specific role that I guess it didn't even cross my mind to do that. And so I think the quicker you can learn to maximize the value that you bring, even outside of the four walls of your official job description, you can very quickly start to, climb the career ladder and gain exposure and additional responsibility. So I think looking at things through the lens of value added rather than learning for the sake of it or being scared to make mistakes is, speak up. You've been hired because you offer value.
Yeah.
So have that confidence to speak up and add value wherever you can.
Yeah. And so it's like lifting your head, right? And learning also about the whole organization, how it works together. Because then
Absolutely.
you have much better idea of who to ask, where to get feedback from, or get an advice, or to bring that value, as you're saying.
Yeah, and the amazing thing is the more you do that, people reciprocate that. So if you help out the product management team with some crucial customer feedback, then they're going to help you out when it comes to launching a new product and giving you the information you need or marketing. So it's, I guess, a big circle. Is the more you give, the more you get back, and the chances of having a successful career grow as a result.
I love it. So if any of the listener wants to reach out to you, how can they connect with you?
I think LinkedIn's probably the easiest way.
Yep.
I'm on there. I get messages and things there. So just look out for Damien Croft on LinkedIn. You can get a hold of me there.
Perfect. So, and I will make sure to put a link in the show notes and also on the website episode, which is called leadershipinmanufacturing.com. Luckily, we're almost done recording here, right? Because now I can't speak anymore. But Damien, I really love this. This was like giving me almost my vitamin of today, because to hear, your passion and how you are creating new leaders, depending on if they're young or older, and the whole company culture and the no blaming culture, I think, on the no pointing fingers. That's some really big takes here or learnings that I want to implement. So thank you so much for being here.
Excellent. Thank you, Sana. I appreciate the invite and enjoyed the conversation. I think maybe down the road, we've got a few other episodes we could dive into there.
Oh, I'm totally in. Let's sign up for another one. I'm in.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. If you like Leadership in Manufacturing podcast, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the show wherever you get the podcast. Our podcast is for interested decision makers like yourself, providing a personalized experience to elevate your leadership journey. So be sure to tune in. You'll have access to a wealth of practical advice and innovative strategies, boosting and refining your leadership style. So check it out. It's on leadershipinmanufacturing.com. Remember, stay curious, keep learning. See you next time.